Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today are top 5 toxic traits that black people are going to have to stop doing. So for this video, I'll talk about top 5 toxic traits black people are going to have to work on in order for us to, of course, progress and do better as a community. And as a result of doing better as a community, live more happier, enjoyable lives. So now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the top 5 toxic traits black people are going to have to stop doing. The first one of all, which for me personally is the most annoying one and actually explains a lot of why we haven't really made much progress, is a showing up late to everything thing. Now, when it comes to the showing up late to everything thing, not only is it annoyance when you are a black person and you always have to, wait for an extremely long time for them to show up for something. Like you say, okay, let's meet up and go to the movies or maybe this particular place and this and that. And they show up like 40, 50 minutes to an hour later after you originally, of course, originally contacted them to tell them to show up. The truth of the matter is, in all honesty, to be quite honest with you, uh, that is an extremely effing annoying thing. A lot of black people do all the time, and it happens quite often. Okay, there's nothing wrong, of course, with being late here and there every so often, but if you're every single time I have to ask you to show up somewhere, you're 40 minutes to an hour late, and that's if you're lucky, especially if it's something important, like we have to show up to the movies on time, or we have to get to this particular, you know, um, this particular event. Maybe it's a museum and or just whatever, this particular event, or there could be a concert, whatever, and they're starting at this particular time, and you're showing up late. It can become quite an annoyance because then you might get there and you might realize you missed a lot of the freaking performance and so on and so forth. Or maybe, for example, it's so crowded, no surprise, you're not able to get in there. So that is one thing that absolutely is something that is very annoying that the black community is going to have to stop doing. It's really annoying, particularly, of course, for very important things like actually having to show up at events, let alone for jobs, which is why I made a statement I made before, which explains a lot of problems we have. Because the truth of the matter is, black people, most black people, let's be honest, you know, whether we want to admit it or not, show up late all the time when they have to go to places, even if it's work related. Whether it's a job where you have to go to a place or it's a place you have to go to, that is a part of a sedentary job where people come to you versus you go to the people. Most black people always show up late on time when they go to places. And how are you going to expect people to really take you seriously if you have a job and you're showing up fucking, you know, 30 minutes or 40 minutes late every single time? People are not going to take you seriously. People are going to think you're a freaking joke. So what exactly do you freaking think is going to happen, in all honesty? So that's one toxic trait that black people are going to have to stop doing. And the quicker we stop doing it, I can guarantee you, not only will there be less stress in our community when you have to actually take someone to go to a place for that matter, but also when it comes to us making more money, we'll make more money because we can actually have people who own black businesses who show up to our houses and do things, whether it could be, carpentry, or maybe even be a finance person or whatever you can think of, and actually show up on time, making it less likely that we'll hire someone of a different race to do it for us because they actually show up on time versus people in our community who show up late to everything. So that's the first point I want to get across, okay? The second thing I want to get across is the saying you're not black enough thing. Now, I can understand occasionally sometimes people say that. Like, for example, if you're listening to someone who has made it very clear that they hate black people for that matter, and you're still listening to the music they make or movies they made or whatever content they produced. But most black people, when they say you're not black enough, say it for the stupidest things imaginable. At least the black people who do say you're not black enough, the majority of them say it for the stupidest things imaginable. Whether it could be because you're actually interested in doing well intellectually and so on and so forth, and you speak proper English, they say you're not black enough, or you actually have an interest in things aside from just simply rap music, sports, and the ghetto. And at the very least, of course, the history of black oppression, whether slavery, civil rights, whatever, outside of those four main things, a lot of black people, to answer your question, If you're interested in other things aside from that, maybe you're interested in space travel, maybe you're interested in the history of the world, ancient civilizations, science, technology, whatever, a lot of black people will say you're not black enough because you're interested in these particular things. And how the fuck are we going to expect our community to go higher if, you know, when, of course, for our community to go higher, you need very smart, bright people. If every single time they try to do more and do more, especially higher academic achievements and having interests aside from just a small perspective, you tell them you're not black enough. And just in general, aside from that, it obviously lowers the enjoyment factor because if you have people who are interested in a few things, then you're missing out on a lot of things that, of course, are very big and informative, aside from just focusing on the ghetto and so on and so forth, which, of course, makes it, to be more specific, makes it boring because the people you're speaking to, um, about everything for that matter, are more limited with the things they're interested in. So that's the second thing black people need to do. Okay, we just stop this "you're not black enough" thing because you're not interested in so on and so forth. Okay, that's the second thing. The third thing is getting offended easily. This is another thing that's extremely annoying about the black community. Okay, this whole you know, getting offended everything because this is one thing I've noticed about the black community. Sometimes you have discussions and you have debates about things, and I notice in the end of the day, for that matter, to be honest with you, a lot of times when you debate black people about things, and you have to try to have discussions, you can't even say certain things without people getting angry and pissed off. Okay, and this is another thing that's extremely bad and toxic and at times extremely annoying with the black community. You can't explain certain things to the with black people when it comes to discussing race, which of course is important because if we discuss things then we can kind of figure out like a solution to a problem. You can't discuss things to black people without them getting um with some black people getting offended by certain things. Okay, you try to say, okay, like for example, like maybe us black people, for example, maybe a discussion about the black community and discuss, okay, yes, it's hard being black, but maybe we should at least take pride in things you accomplish. Some black people get pissed off at that and they get angry at you for that. And they say, why do we want to do that? Why do we want to at least take pride in the things we accomplish? Which to me, that's how it sounds like. Because those black people have this way of thinking that we should always focus on the negativity 24 fucking 7. Okay, which is so stupid because if we only focus on the negativity 24 freaking 7, that's not only not good for your mental health, but it can also cause you know, you know, problems and realizing that things have gotten better in the black community. And that's the truth of the matter about a lot of black people. Every single fucking time you try to give answers which no one else is saying, they get offended. And sometimes you try to speak with them and rationalize with them because I'm giving a suggestion. I'm not saying anything affect racist or this and that. That obviously anyone can say is racist or disrespectful to the black community or this and that, and then but even still, they get angry at you and say that you shouldn't be saying this and that, and so on and so forth. And they start, and sometimes the most annoying thing is when a whole group starts shouting you down. It's like, what the fuck? And that's another thing that's also very annoying about the black community is this whole shouting people down, which relates, of course, to this topic when you simply have a different opinion from what everyone else says. I'm so sick and tired of it. It's annoying and it's not even funny. Now, the fourth one that obviously that needs to be mentioned is, of course, overcharging prices for things. This one's also extremely annoying because the thing is, black people, as we all know, are the most discriminated against people on the face of the planet. Why the hell would we? Because, of course, there's a huge risk of racism, so on and so forth, etc. Why the hell would I, as a black person, for fuck's sakes, okay, want to go to a store from a person of another race, taking a risk of getting followed and people following me and this and that in a store and maybe just being straight up disrespectful when I can go to a black store? And you know why many black people don't go to black stores? Because they overcharge prices for everything. You try to go in their stores, everything is always way more expensive than everything else. And how are we going to build our community up and actually see success and so on and so forth if everything is over or to be more realistic, whatever, you get the point, is over $1 to $2 to $3, sometimes if you're lucky, over the prices I could get from something from an Asian store. So that's another annoying thing the black community needs to stop. And I can guarantee if we stop this, we do a lot better. And the last one, but definitely not least is getting pissed over every little thing. This is another thing that's about the black community that gets annoying. And this kind of relates specifically, of course, no surprise, particularly to parenting. Sometimes you work with black parent you for a lot of black people, you have black parents and they get pissed over the smallest freaking thing you do, the smallest imperfection. You might, for example, slip some water on the counter sink. They get pissed over it instead of just saying, okay, just please make sure you don't do that. And that's the fifth most annoying thing about the black community. So anyway, this is the things that we need to work on in a community if we want to improve. Because if we don't work on these things, then we're not going to improve and we're going to still be in the same position that we are in. So anyway, this is all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. Just remember, if you like this video and videos like this, remember to thumb this video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all I have to say. See you, I'm out. Bye.